And welcome into College Football Live. I'm Cassidy Hubbard, and I'm joined by former All-American Trevor Matich. And Trevor, for the first time since the video became public, Oklahoma coach Bob Stoops addressed the surveillance tape showing Sooners running back Joe Mixon punching a female student in 2014. Here's what he had to say.
2.5 years ago, some viewed the tape locally and thought it was fair or appropriate or to some degree significant penalty and discipline. 2.5 years later, it's fair to say it isn't enough, and that's positive in that that's the way the things have gone in the last 2.5 years. That really the only thing that's ever acceptable anymore is dismissal.
We also now welcome in Desmond Howard. And guys, Bob Stoops made a very clear distinction there. Trevor, what's your reaction to his comments?
I thought it made sense because he was saying that 2.5 years ago, there was more opportunity to give a kid a second chance. And I think that's what was Bob Stoops' main priority. This was an ugly act that Mixon did, and nobody doubts that. But coaches promise to parents when they recruit that they'll treat their sons as if they were the coach's own son. And a coach's first inclination is to try to find a way to save this kid if it's possible. It's not always possible. But now, and I think Stoops said this very clearly, in today's environment, you've got less opportunity for a second chance because when people understand and they actually see the videos of what happens, it narrows the possibilities that coaches can actually do.
Des, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I think that, well, Cassie, I think that, Bob should, the evidence didn't change for Bob. It may have changed for the public. It may have changed for the people who never saw the video. But as far as what I know, Bob saw the video. Bob knew all of the facts involved. So I don't know why he would, outside of public pressure, why would he go out and have to make that statement the way he did about Joe Mixon and about how this happened today or this week or what have you, that he would change the discipline for Joe Mixon. So I think that it just seems slightly hypocritical to me. It seems like he's giving in to maybe public pressure because nothing changed in 2 years as far as the facts are concerned, except now we have the video to support, to support what Joe told the cops happened, too.
Well, Des, here's another fact. He was suspended for the 2014 season. However, the team redshirted him, so he didn't lose a year of eligibility. So was the punishment appropriate? Trevor.
Well, I think based on what Bob Stoops... Oh, go ahead. You want to go, Trevor? Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, I think the punishment at the time, if it were me, I would have cut ties and had him do his second chance somewhere else. I think I understand this as well as a man can. When I was a small boy, I saw my mother beaten and bruised. Imagine if I saw that today. And so I understand that side of it as well as I think I can. At the same time, I also understand that the way coaches look at players is different with each individual player. Some players have kind of a sketchy past, and this is something that they expect they might do, and they're gone. Coaches look at other players as good kids who made one mistake, and rather than throw that kid on the dumpster and take away his best chance at having a good life, which is to be in college, not just playing football, but be in the program of mentoring and accountability that all college programs have. That's the best chance for a lot of these kids. And rather than be too quick to throw that away, coaches are seeking to find a way that they might save this kid. Now, there are some things that there's no saving. There are some things there's no way to come back from, like Baylor, for example. And maybe this is one of those things. But 2 years ago, that's what Bob Stoops was thinking. How can I put in place a process by which this kid can prove that he can save himself?
And I agree with Trevor that the coach's job is to give this kid an opportunity to be successful. And if he evaluates this young man, he knows this guy because he's been recruiting this kid for 3-4 years, so he feels as though he understands this kid's personality. He knows where he comes from, and that this is an isolated incident that is out of character for this player, Joe Mixon, to act this way. Then he must do what he deems is the right thing to do by all the facts and data that he has based on the years he spent knowing this young man, recruiting this young man, and bringing him to the campus. So if he wanted to give him a second chance, then I understand that. Now, if this is a kid who's a habitual offender, whose history would tell you he committed a similar act in high school too, then at that point you have to say this may be a person who we need to cut ties with, because this is obviously who he is as a person, and he needs to get some serious help. So for Bob Stoops to make the decision that he made back then, I don't have an issue with it, because he has more data, more information, not only on what took place, but on the person who he has to discipline for that act.
And Desmond, this squares with Bob Stoops' history, because they have recruited players, highly recruited guys that Oklahoma wanted, but they hire an independent background check firm. And on some of these kids, the background check came back a little sketchy, and Oklahoma has cut recruiting ties with those kids. So if Bob Stoops was just trying to get a good player on the roster and forget about what other damage he does,
right,
he wouldn't have done that. And so I think it's fair to say that he didn't do enough back at the time. But I think it's not fair to say that Bob Stoops acted in callous disregard of the victim just because he wanted to win football games. He was thinking about, what can I do to save this kid if it's at all possible that he's saved? And what he said in this press conference was that today there is a much more narrow margin for error in that process.
All right, guys, let's move on to the biggest sports story of the day, and that's coming in